Russia didn't lose this area slowly. It lost it in a single night. By morning, the damage wasn't counted in destroyed buildings. It was counted in billions of dollars erased, systems broken, and a strategic zone pushed to the edge of collapse. And the most dangerous part? This loss didn't come from a massive invasion. It came from precision, timing, and pressure. For months, this area had been one of Russia's most important operational zones. Not a frontline city, but something more valuable. A logistics corridor. Fuel depots. Ammunition storage. Repair facilities. Rail and road connections feeding multiple fronts. Everything moving forward passed through here. That's why it was heavily defended. Air defense systems were layered around it. Radar coverage was constant. Electronic warfare units monitored the air. On maps, it looked secure. Protected. Stable. But stability in war is fragile. The night the attack happened, nothing looked unusual at first. No sirens. No warnings. No mass alerts. Russian operators reported normal activity. Traffic moved. Trains ran on schedule. Fuel transfers continued. Then the first contacts appeared. Small aerial objects at long range. Slow. Low altitude. Drones. Not enough to cause panic, but enough to demand attention. Air defense systems activated. Radars increased power. Tracking mode switched. Operators locked on. The first intercept was successful. A missile launched. A drone disappeared. Command channels reported a clean kill. Then another drone appeared. Then another. Different directions. Different heights. Not a swarm. A pattern. Each drone forced a decision. Fire and spend a missile. Or wait and risk letting something through. No commander wanted to be responsible for hesitation. So they fired. Again. And again. Missiles worth hundreds of thousands of dollars streaked into the sky. Some costing over $1 million each. The drones were cheap. Disposable. Designed to be lost. And that imbalance mattered. Within minutes, the area's air defenses were fully engaged. Radars were running at maximum output. Electronic warfare systems flooded the airwaves. From the outside, it looked like control. From the inside, it was stress. Operators had no time to rest. Reload cycles slowed response times. Missile stocks dropped faster than expected. And the drones kept coming. Not to hit anything important. Just to keep pressure on. Then, suddenly, they stopped. The sky went quiet. To exhausted crews, it felt like relief. To commanders, it looked like success. The threat had been neutralized. But that silence wasn't safety. It was timing. Because while defenses were focused on the sky, the real attack was already moving. This time, the drones were different. Faster. Lower. More precise. They didn't announce themselves. They didn't linger. They slipped through gaps created minutes earlier, gaps caused by empty launchers, delayed reloads, and overloaded radar coverage. The first strike hit a fuel storage facility. The explosion wasn't massive. But the fire spread instantly. Fuel lines ignited. Storage tanks burned. Within minutes, millions of dollars in fuel were gone. The second strike hit a rail junction. Tracks were damaged. Control systems failed. Trains stopped where they stood. Supply routes feeding multiple fronts were cut in seconds. Then communications went down. Command posts lost contact with units. Coordination collapsed. Orders couldn't move faster than the chaos. This wasn't destruction for spectacle. It was paralysis by design. More strikes followed. Ammunition depots. Vehicle repair facilities. Power substations supporting the zone. Not flattened. Crippled. Enough to stop operations. Enough to break flow. By the time air defenses stabilized, it was already too late. The area still existed. But it no longer functioned. Fuel couldn't move. Ammo couldn't reach the front. Repairs couldn't be completed. And when logistics stop, everything stops. By morning, analysts began calculating the loss. Fuel reserves destroyed or unusable. Rail and road infrastructure damaged. Ammunition lost. Vehicles immobilized. Operations delayed across multiple sectors. The number kept rising. When everything was added together, the estimate was brutal. $6.4 billion. Lost in one night. Not slowly. Not over weeks of fighting. But in a single, carefully timed window of darkness. Not because the area lacked defenses. Not because it was unprotected or ignored. But because those defenses were pushed to their limits long before the real strike arrived. They weren't destroyed. They were drained. Missile by missile. Decision by decision. Military analysts reviewing the attack reached the same conclusion almost immediately. This wasn't chaos. This wasn't luck. This wasn't incompetence. This wasn't a technological failure. Every system worked exactly as designed. Radars detected targets. Missiles launched on command. Interceptors hit drones in the sky. And that was the problem. The defenses did what they were supposed to do. And that predictability was exploited. The response followed a script. A script Ukraine had already studied. Cheap threats forced expensive reactions. Low-cost drones triggered million-dollar missiles. Minor pressure drained major resources faster than anyone expected. And once the shield thinned, once reload times slowed, once operators were exhausted, once coverage became uneven, precision did the rest. The area didn't collapse because it was weak. It collapsed because it reacted exactly as expected. Every move made sense in isolation. Together, they created failure. The impact didn't stop at that zone. It spread outward, quietly and relentlessly. Frontline units began reporting shortages within days. Fuel deliveries slowed to a crawl. Ammunition was rationed instead of supplied. Repairs were delayed. Operations were postponed. Momentum stalled. Plans that took weeks to prepare were suddenly useless. Timelines collapsed. Offensives lost urgency. Defensive positions became liabilities. A single night rewrote weeks of planning. And that's what made this loss so dangerous. It wasn't loud. It didn't look dramatic on a map. There were no collapsing skyscrapers or massive firestorms. But it was decisive. Modern war isn't about leveling cities anymore. It's about breaking systems that keep those cities alive. You don't need to destroy everything. You just need to interrupt enough. Logistics. Energy. Communication. Once those fail, territory becomes meaningless. Holding ground without fuel, power, or coordination is an illusion. This attack proved that. $6.4 billion didn't vanish because of one massive explosion. It vanished because of dozens of calculated strikes. And hundreds of forced reactions made under pressure. Each reaction seemed reasonable. Together, they were catastrophic. And that's the future of warfare. Pressure. Timing. Exhaustion. If you want more real, detailed breakdowns of how modern attacks cause massive losses without massive invasions, subscribe. Because the next loss won't come with a warning. It won't announce itself. It will come the same way. Quiet. Calculated.